Welcome to the fifth video in the series where we're working on enemies in Unity and these little hover bots. So in this video, I want to set up drop tables. So I want to be able to give these robots the ability to randomly drop either health or ammo when we defeat them. If we're going to end up making like some kind of like an infinite survival game, we should have some way to restore ammo. And you can also place these ammo boxes in the world if you want to. And we can kind of build like a power-up system from there. So let's start by actually making the prefabs for these collectibles. So inside of prefabs, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this items for just things that we can pick up. And I'm going to make one for that explosion, just to organize things a little bit. So as far as items go, the first one I want to do is an ammo box. Now, you could just use a regular old box like this and just tint it green. I think in one of the assets I loaded, I do have a prop that might look like one. So I think there's like a crate here that I could use. That looks, well, looking more, there we go, we could use this crate. So let's drop this crate in. And I'm going to move this over to my own prefab set so that I can begin tweaking this. So I'm going to rename this to ammo crate, or we can call it ammo pickup, whatever you want to call it. And we will drop that over here in items, and we want to create a new original prefab with that. So now when we start editing this prefab, we have, it'll be kind of a fresh item. I do want to shrink it down a little bit because I do think it is too big. And currently it has a mesh collider. I do think that's a little bit more detailed than what we need. So we could just remove that. And so right now it just has a mesh renderer. What we want, so we'll want to, I want it to be able to drop and hit the ground. So if I want it to be able to actually drop and kind of move around physically, it's going to need a box collider, just because I think that's simpler to calculate, and then also a rigid body where gravity does affect it. So now this crate can drop, and the problem is, the biggest problem I have with it is I don't want it to get pushed around by explosions. So that kind of presents a difficult choice here of whether or not I don't think is kinematics going to save it, but we could see. Oops, I clicked on the scale button. Okay, that should keep it from getting pushed. But that way it still can be affected by gravity. So like if something was flying and dropped it, no, I guess not. Well, okay, fine, we'll just turn off gravity. And actually we won't even bother using rigid body on it. We'll just use a box collider, set it to be a trigger, and that will be that. So these things will float. Not super happy about that, but it is what it is. So we've got our collider. Now we're going to eventually need a script to hold the information of what this is going to drop. So we'll want to put that into, I guess, my scripts for my objects. And we'll create a new C# script. I'm just going to call it Powerup. Kind of a little bit action gamey, but that's what these essentially are. They're going to either restore ammo. We could even have it increase our max ammo. We could increase our max health. We really could script it to do whatever we want. So this Powerup script is going to be really simple. I'm not even going to make this like object oriented. I'm just going to make it hold some data. So we're going to have a public float, and we'll call this ammo restore %. How much ammo this is going to restore as a percentage. Public float health restore %. How much of your health as a percentage this is going to restore. And for now, that's all we really need. We could add more if we wanted to, and you'll see the way that we handle this. So we'll hit save. Right now, they're both 0. That's fine. So we can then attach this script onto my prefab. So for my ammo box, we can take and place this power up script on it. And we need to remove this rigid body. Make this a trigger. So the ammo restore percentage, we could pick 0.2. So this will restore 20% of my ammo when I pick this up. And now as far as the tag goes, we probably should make a new tag for this. So I'm going to call this power up. Oops. So we'll have this tagged as power up. Then that's good. So that's all we really need to do for this for now. Then let's create a health item. And in the Unity FPS, there was actually a prefab for a health item. So there's this pickup health thing. So let's bring it into the world and then fix it real fast because it's missing scripts. So I'm going to take off that script. I'm going to take off the Nash mesh modifier. And then I'm going to make this into a new prefab under my items collection. So I'm going to take it, place it into items, original prefab, so that it's its own unique thing here. Delete my existing ones. It even has like this little glow effect we can turn on. So I don't want an icon for it. I do need it tagged as power up, and I'll just rename this to health pickup and rename file too. So it has a rigid body, and I don't really see too much usage in it, so I'm going to remove that. And it does have a box collider. The box collider is quite large, so I'm tempted to scale that thing down a little bit. So that will be the size. Maybe we'll leave it still tall so that it still stands up kind of high. But the rest of it is a little bit trimmed in. So this is going to be our health pickup. This is a trigger, because we're using triggers for both of these. And then we just want to slap the script on this. And say that it restores maybe 25% of our health. All right, so we've got two things that can do things. Let's make them work, and then we'll work on giving them to the enemy. So let's just place them here. And we want to rig up these actually doing something. So right now they don't. We can hit play, and I would end up passing right through them. Assuming I can even see them. So we just pass right through them. Kind of feel like I should replicate that if I wanted to make the video longer. But if you would want to, you could take those particles and make that thing have those particles. That would look cool. So we need to modify the player script. So I'm going to modify this player hit script. Since it wasn't doing a whole lot, it seems like a good candidate for where we're going to manage our pickups. So these are triggers. So we want to activate public void on trigger enter. And we have already got our collider for other. So keep in mind, this could get triggered by anything. So we only want to activate this if we bumped into a power up. So if other game object dot tag is equal to a power up, then we will go into all of our other things, and then we will destroy it. So let's first get the script, so we don't have to call a really long line of other.gameObject.getComponent. So we'll call this pickup, or what was it called? Power up? Yeah. Power up script, and we'll call it item, equals other.gameObject.getComponent power up. And then we will just go through all the things that it could do. Now, if we wanted to get fancier, we could make like an enumerator and have it have a different type based on what type of power-up it is. But I think this will be quicker. So let's handle ammo first. So we're going to loop through all of our ammo types, starting at type 1, because type 0 is just that null type, or the none type. Didn't spell get values, right? It's not seeing our ammo type, which is frustrating. Oh, we have to reference it game manager.ammo type. So that will get our ammo type. So this will run up to however many ammo types we have. And now we need to figure out how much ammo does it restore. So int ammo amount equals mathf ceiling to int. So we're rounding up. So if it gives you 0.5 of a rocket, it rounds it up to 1. Game manager instance ammo max times the item's ammo restore percentage. So it takes your max ammo, multiplies it by what percentage it's going to restore, and that's how much ammo we're going to get. So game manager dot instance dot ammo plus equals ammo amount, and then we want to make sure we cap the ammo. So we could use clamp for this if we wanted to. Game manager dot instance ammo max, or ammo at position I, is equal to. We could do clamp. I think clamp returns a float, but whatever. So our thing, or the minimum value we can do is 0. The maximum value we can do is game manager dot instance dot ammo max. I guess that's fine. So it's going to return either the ammo or in between. It's never going to be 0, but if it subtracted ammo for some reason, and then up to the max. So then let's restore health. A little bit easier. So heal amount will equal our max hit points times the item's healing percentage. So if we have 200 hit points and it's healing 25%, we get 50 hit points. And this is easy. We can just call game manager instance change health. And unfortunately, we set up change health to subtract. So to heal, we'll do minus. We'll do a negative amount. And this should restore our health and our ammo. So if we hit save, we should be able to test this. We should be able to like take some damage and then be able to pick up the health and see that we restore some health. So if I damage myself with my rocket, and then I pick up the health, I should get about 25% back. And I do. And if I pick this up, I should get 20% of my ammo, which for rockets, I think that'll round up to 3. So it should go to 4 of 12. And there it is. So that worked out pretty nicely. So all of my ammo got increased. Now the only thing we have left is to give the enemies a drop table. And so that's going to be kind of a very useful thing to learn because so many games use drop tables that this is actually a pretty fundamental thing. All right, so second part of the video, let's make the drop table. So that's going to be primarily handled inside of enemy. So we'll jump over to the enemy script. And we need some new variables. So underneath AI attack settings, we could probably include a header for loot drop table. And we need a game object of drops. We'll call this loot drops. And we'll have a integer array of loot weights so that we can kind of give weights to this so that certain things might be more likely to show up than others. So we'll hit save on that real fast. Going to the enemy's prefab, we can then set this up. So you can see that here's our drop table. So we'll make 3 drops and 3 weights. So we'll leave the first one blank because the first one's going to represent you get nothing. And then we're going to put the prefabs for our items into these other slots. So I'm going to put the ammo there, and I'm going to put the health pickup here. And I want it to have 3 out of however many I choose, 2 and 1. So essentially the total weight is 6. So it's almost as if you rolled a 6-sided dice, and 1, 2, and 3 give you nothing. 4 and 5 will give you an ammo pickup, and then 6 will give you a health pickup. And so that's how we're going to do a weighted drop. You could adjust these weights to be whatever you want. You could do them out of a factor of 100, and make a total that totals up to 100, so you can think of them as percentages. But either way, this means there's 3 chances to get nothing, 2 chances to get ammo, and 1 chance to get health. It's kind of like that marble question back in middle school or elementary school. If you have 6 marbles in a bag, 3 of those marbles say nothing, 2 of those marbles say ammo, so on. All right, so let's actually make that work. So let's create a method inside of enemy, maybe underneath check health, called public void get loot drop. And we'll handle all of our loot dropping here. So if loot drops is not equal null. So as long as we have a loot table, and loot drops dot length is greater than 0, and loot drops dot length is equal to loot weights dot length. So if all of those things are true, then we have a valid configuration and we're safe to go. So we need to total up our weights. Because we need this to figure out what random number we're going to generate. So good old-fashioned for loop. And total weights plus equals loot weights at position I. So we total up the total number of weights that are droppable. So the first step is generate a random number. So int loot number is equal to random.range from 0 to total weights. I feel like taking the plural off of that. So that will generate exclusively from, well, inclusive on the 0, exclusive on the total weight, as said by the documentation. So if the total weights is 10, it'll generate from 0 to 9, which is what we want. So then we loop through till we find what what section it landed on. So we create a variable called current weight, and then we loop through our loot list. And add the current weight, add the current items drop to here. And if the random number is less than that, then that's what we're going to drop. So if loot number is less than the current weight, not less than or equal to though, so just less than. So don't do less than or equal to. So if loot number is less than the current weight, then we want to drop that. So if the drop is not equal to null, because the first item in the list is null for nothingness, so we don't want that to be the case. Or we don't want to try to instantiate nothing. And then this return ends the method so that we stop. I mean, we could just do break instead. There's only one for loop, so that'll kick us out of here. And so this will spawn the item in question at our position with a default rotation. The default rotation, maybe we should calculate the rotation towards the player. But as many college textbooks say, that'll be left as an exercise for the reader. We've calculated the rotation to the player plenty of times. So that's going to be how we handle these drops. So we'll hit save on that. And now we will go back to the game world, and it'll take a lot of experimentation to make sure the drops are right. And you could even have it print out the drop number to make sure that this is working correct. To make sure that it's dropping on the appropriate numbers. So 50% chance of nothing doesn't seem too unusual. Now we might want to turn on drop numbers just to make sure that these are working correct. And I know when I first did this originally, I did. Because it is kind of suspicious that I haven't gotten anything yet. So I am going to turn on the debug to see my loot number. Because that seems a little odd that after 4 kills I didn't get anything. Oh, I forgot to call it. See? Debugging works. I didn't get a number, so that told me I totally forgot to call to get the loot drops. So we probably want to do that inside of check health, right when the health is 0, but before we delete the thing, we want to do get loot drop. See, I knew debugging would solve all of my problems. So that rolled a 0, which would be nothing. That rolled a 1, which would be nothing. So we can get from 1 to 5. That rolled a 2, which is the last number of nothing. Also rolled a 2. Wow. That's some really bad luck. A 3 and a 4 would create a ammo box. So there it is. There's our ammo box. And we pick it up. We get ammo. So the only thing left is that we need to make sure we can get a 5, which would be the health item. And hey, there's our 5. And there's our health item. Wow, 2 of them in a row. What luck. And so that worked out. And so that actually concludes our loot drop. And so I'm pretty happy with how that worked out. I mean, you could add some sound effects. You could make it rotate to the player. There's a lot of little tweaks you could do to make those. You could put a light on them to indicate that they're pick-upable. But there's a lot of like style things you can do to those to clue the player in to the fact that those are pickups. But that will conclude this video. The next video will focus on ironing out some animation issues, getting the enemy to rotate towards us when we're within its stop distance, and then also getting a respawn system for the player to work. A bunch of little small maintenance things, assuming the animation goes quickly. If not, the animation will be the whole video, and we'll just have another one after that with the maintenance things. So I will catch you for the next video. See you then.